Meeting. We're going to call this to order. Stand and say the pledge of allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have any agenda changes, please.
We do, since the agenda was posted on Friday, we did take the executive session after Mr. Fairchild's presentation off the agenda for this evening. I did provide the board members with a hard copy of any highlighted changes on the personnel report since last Friday as well.
Thank you. Do you have any public comments related to any agenda items this evening? Okay, any communications?
I do have communications to the board. The annual dinner meeting for the BOCES in Glenfield is going to be held on Wednesday, April 10th. There is a buffet dinner and a presentation. If the board could actually just reach out to me if you are interested in attending the annual dinner meeting on April 10th.
Thank you. Great to have a full house tonight. Great to see all the parents, students, teachers, community members. We have Mr. Chad Fairchild, who's going to present student voice for us to see.
Thank you all for having us close to you in your own space. So, but what we'll make up.
We are somewhat in your space.
Yeah, so we'll push out a little bit. So, tonight, without further ado, just a little intro to Wiley, a little refresher on Wiley. So Wiley, since I've been back up here, it's been about 15 years hiatus in different buildings, and I'm back to Wiley here. And everyone says Wiley's its own special place, and I'm like, it's so true. But what can we liken that? And it hit me. I'm like, oh yeah, it's kind of like an estuary here. Like all the streams from the 5 different elementaries, they feed into us. It's all fresh water, younger kids. And then they get Wiley, and we had this estuary here, and then in 2 years, we send them off into a much bigger sea of Case and then to high school. So I thought the analogy fits because it really does feel different here. You're not quite an elementary student, and you're not quite a middle school student. You're just kind of somewhere in the middle, and it depends on the day. You might be more one or the other, the same student of the week. So it's very much a different feel. We have 619 students, and that's been pretty consistent throughout this year. There's about 622, 23, I believe, on Feds Day, and the 619 as of yesterday or the day before. We have 14 fifth grades, 14 sixth grades, 3 special education classrooms, and we have a total of Watertown CSD employees that work here in this building, 105, and a few others from other organizations that help us out. But it's a pretty good staff, pretty good sized building, a great staff, but a pretty good number of staff. So that's just a quick overview of that. And I don't want to take a lot of your time talking to you about stats. I really want you guys to hear from our students and some of our amazing teachers that guide and lead them in the programs that they're doing. So next, I'm going to turn it over to my assistant principal, Olivia Gallagher, and she's going to talk to you about some of the cool things that our kids get the opportunity to do here at Wiley.
So we quickly want to provide you with just an overview of everything we offer at Wiley. And as you can tell, probably from our students that turned up tonight, you can tell that we do a lot outside of the classroom as well. We have our ensemble. We have a chorus that we offer to students. Not only can they take band, but they can actually learn an instrument at this age. Our first Lego League, which will actually be presenting tonight to all of you. Our STEM Explorers, which will be presenting in just a minute. Our Math Olympiads, Yearbook, Student Council, 4-H, and Lego. So without further ado, we're going to turn over to Tyler DeToni, and he's going to talk about STEM.
Hi, everybody. I'm Tyler DeToni. It's my 5th year at Wiley, and it is my favorite place to be, besides home with my animals, right? No, I feel very fortunate to be where I am today. I'm also going to call up my co-advisor, who's going to not love that I'm calling her out, Coach Thomas. And I just want to talk a little bit about STEM Explorers. We have the opportunity through the DODEA grant to run
3 sessions of our STEM Explorers, which is where students have the opportunity to engage in STEM activities, engineering, design opportunities, as well as like talking about deeper critical thinking topics. So we talk a lot about like engineering, aerodynamics, odds and ends, stuff like that. This is supposed to be a video. I don't know if it'll play. It's just like a little GIF. I don't know if it'll work. Okay, that's okay. We can skip to the next slide though. We also do coding and robotics, but here's some pictures of some of the opportunities that the kids have had. We've used some Spheros. We did the egg drop challenge for the athletes in our program. We did some design challenges when it comes to like football, and we catapults. I mean, the kids the opportunities are endless. And we kind of base it off of their interests. So I think it really keeps them engaged in it. I think we have one more slide of pictures. So you'll see that we have our catapult opportunity up there, as well as another one picture of the end goal, field goal activity. So, but at this time, instead of hearing me talk about this activity, I think it's best if you hear from the kids. So I have 2 students I'd like to invite up to go over some of the cool things that we do and how this really enriches Wiley. So I'm going to invite Miss Berlin and Charlotte to come up, and they're just going to kind of share some information with you. And I'll be back to talk about the next thing.
My name is Charlotte Stapp, and I also participated in group 1 of STEM. I also got to come back to session 2 as a student helper. One of my favorite activities that we did during STEM Explorers was the egg drop, where we talked about aerodynamics and had to make something to protect the egg from cracking after dropping. We also did an activity with straw rockets, where we talked about aerodynamics. We designed several different variations of our straw rocket to see which one would fly the furthest.
You're doing a great job.
Several constraints while doing these. Time was always one of them, and sometimes we couldn't talk, making it more difficult to build whatever we were building. I feel like it really made us more of a community because we got to work with new people and talk about what we were doing.
You did good.
Hi, my name is Berlin, and I had the joy of participating in STEM Explorers Group 1 and Group 2 as a student helper. Mr. Datomi and Coach Thomas, they gave us a great and fun way to have the different paths of STEM with different activities and different ways of learning. We learned about neutrally buoyant. We did an activity about neutrally buoyant weather balloons and the satellites, and we learned about what buoyancy means. We learned how to design and test our different creations, like with the egg drop challenge, we had to design our own creation, and then we have to bring it to life, and we only got one chance to test it, so we kind of had to hope it worked. And then we had to do a football one where we had to design our own end field goal, and we had different constraints because we only had different materials, we had a time constraint. Yeah, thank you.
As you can see, we like to have a lot of fun in our STEM Explorers. And I think on the next page, I do take time to take a minute to thank Mrs. Lisa Blank and Karen Elmer. This is possible through their funding through the JODEA grants that they apply for, and they provide money for this opportunity. And we try to keep the group small so that way they are able to do more, as well as we're able to give them more attention too. So it's a really great opportunity for that. So I think I'm going to take off this hat and switch to the next hat, which is Math Olympiads, which I also run. And it's before I even get started, I have to take a second to thank Mrs. Wagorn, our school counselor, who has helped me administer all of the assessments with the Math Olympiads.
It is a great enrichment program that is a national competition that Wiley participates in. This year we had one team and our selection process was looking at the top 85th percentile and inviting those students to then test taking a practice one of the assessments through the Math Olympiads to kind of qualify to be in the competition, which limited us. I think we initially had about 39 and it did narrow down to about 35 when everybody kind of checked out on the information. 35 students on the math team. We had every day 5, we had a practice. So that's something that we upgraded. Mr. Fairchild was able to find time for us to practice, which was really nice because last year, because of time constraints, we really didn't have time to practice with the kids, which throwing a test in front of kids without practice wasn't really that great of an enrichment opportunity, but it's really, we've evolved a lot with that. Yes, Mrs. Wagorn, again, thank you to her for helping us administer. I do have some data from it. A little bit of information on the next few slides. Oh, well, pictures of them taking the test. I mean, they were so hyper-focused and excited. I don't know what else to take a picture of during Math Olympiad assessments, but it was pretty cool. So if you bounce to the next slide. So here's the information. It did not transfer over as nicely from Canva as I wanted it to, but you can see that our team results are up at the top, 13601. And then we had 5th and 6th graders. So you can kind of compare the average data of what our team results were on each of the problems, A, B, C, and D, and E, to those grade ranges. And most times we fell right in the typical, pretty consistent with the data, but you'll see like for letter B on the first one, that our 6th graders, actually 6th graders and 5th graders ended up testing higher than the overall. So we are seeing some very, very talented students in our math programs at Wiley. So it's been really rewarding. And you'll see that for the second assessment, similar data. It ebbs and flows a little bit with absences, et cetera, but it's been pretty awesome. And you'll see that the next 2 tests are also on the next slide. I just wanted to make sure I provided so that we could see that. And then the final assessment, when I submitted these slides, wasn't administered yet. It has been administered, but the data still has to be completed by the Math Olympiads organization. Thank you. There we go. So yeah, I can talk about kids all day. I can do it all day. But yeah, so this is a really, really great opportunity. And again, thank you to everybody who helps with the funding for that, because it's which they're going to share with you how they feel about it. So we have 2 more students who will share out now about Math Olympiads. I'd like to invite Luke and Jaden to come on up. Take note of Jaden's bow tie. You got a math bow tie. It's a math bow tie. So if you guys come right up, you guys can slide right up there.
Good evening. My name is Jane Luxana. I am a student who has had the great opportunity to participate in the Math Olympiad program for the past 2 years. I would like to take this opportunity to share with you some of the benefits of this program and my favorite part about it. Favorite part of my experience with the program. First, I would like to share the benefits that this program provides to students. One of the main benefits is that it provides students with the opportunity to be exposed to more advanced math skills and to be pushed harder in math. The program also gives students the opportunity to practice those advanced math skills with their team members. This allows for students to work on teamwork and communication skills. These are a few of the benefits that Math Olympiads can provide you with. Now I would like to tell you what my favorite thing about Math Olympiads is. Personally, my favorite thing about Math Olympiads is the challenge that the test brings. The reason I enjoy the challenge is because I enjoy challenging myself and because I love math. I would like to thank you for the opportunity to share my experience with you.
Good job.
As it has given me the chance to learn new things and challenge the way I approach problems. I have been lucky to be chosen to be a part of this series for the last 2 years, and I thank Mr. Thomas for his guidance and knowledge. I believe this is a program that will benefit the future Wiley students, so I hope it continues to grow. Thank you.
Thank you guys. I feel like you were more eloquent than I was. So, and then a final, I think we have one more thing to talk about after Math Olympiads, and that is our Wiley PTO. I am a member of this, and we just wanted to showcase our Wiley PTO. Any parents who are interested in being part of it, please feel free to reach out. We would love to have more parent involvement and engagement. You can see a plethora of things that we have helped run, including acknowledging our support staff in the building, fundraising, materials for students who might not be able to afford it, some other things like running the Scholastic Book Fairs and supporting the PBIS initiative. And then if you flip the next slide, this is our favorite part. We're super excited. And thank you to Ms. Charlton for all of your support with us. We are going to be bringing Mr. Bruce Scoville, an author from the Syracuse area. He wrote My Teacher is an Alien. He's very well known for that. This year, we really wanted to focus on programming, and so we're making it happen. So that's all I've got to say. So thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. And come on up. Next up, we have an amazing group of speakers and presenters and engineers with Legos and other such things. And Kathy and Logan will share a good word on that.
They're gonna do the sharing with you and explain what First Lego League is and the tournament that they went to and all the parts that was involved with it.
It's just like Tyler, we'd rather talk to
We had two teams this year, and they named themselves, came up with the name Cryptic Crew and Lego Legends. So we'll look through the slides, and they have things to talk about during the slide.
I'll read the slide and you guys figure it out. So what is First Lake League? So it's a friendly competition that at the heart of the competition, it's groups of children across the North Country, but this is an international program as well. Ages 9 to 6 are involved in researching problems, problem solving, coding robots, building robots, and having that robot navigate a table in which the robot has to accomplish missions. So if the core values group would like to talk, go ahead.
Let's say League has core values so we can learn that friendly competitions and mutual gain are not separate goals and that helping one another is the foundation of teamwork. Core values are very important to First Lego League because as participants in Clarkson, we learn to be very friendly to other teams and help each other when things are not going so well. Part of First Lego League is the research project. This year, the project theme was to tell about our passion. We decided to put on a play about tubing. We talked to an actor from Rev Theater Group. She told us how to write a skit, make scenery, and include costumes. We also went to Dry Hills and got to experience snow tubing and share that with the judges. The robot game is a game with missions to complete on a table. You have to build the robot out of Legos and then program it to complete missions. We earned points for each mission we completed. Legends won the Judges Award for being a well-rounded team, showing success in the robot game, the core values in the project. The Innovation Award is given to a team that used resources to research their project. The Cryptic Crew, who won the trophy, spoke to the Rev Theater about their project. The Lego Legends won the Judges Award, which is an award for explaining to the judges all about their problem and solution for Lego League and explaining their robot design. The Lego Legends, we made a game to, show, like, love about drawing and sketching. Art, I guess. This, I don't know. We made a game about drawing. I don't know. There's nothing in the box.
Oh, I. She's the one. She's so
We're hoping you would do a skip.
So they do a song of dance number, acceptable rate, that's what we from now.
Probably since we're here and you don't know what I'm asking.
Boss, I'm going to say yes.
Doesn't get any more loaded than that. So we started a pilot this year for the parents and students are already aware of this that are a pilot, but we started a pilot this year with a technical service safety officer. How's that going?
Outstanding. Is so well suited for the job. He is outstanding with students, he's outstanding with adults. He knows what he's supposed to do. He's there, he's in the cafeteria in the morning, watching over that. He's doing tours around the building. He's sitting down with classes when there's specials. He's there during the lunches. If we say, hey, can this, there was a theft or there was a this or that, can you look it up on cameras? He's there getting all the data, doing the numbers, sitting down with, sharing that information with parents. It is so helpful, and he's not afraid to just jump in and help out whenever and wherever he's needed. So a enormous thank you to the board and to you, Dr. Schmiegel, and everybody else for making that happen, because that is such a huge help for Wiley. And I think the staff feel like, oh, this is so wonderful that we have somebody here that can help take care of business and that's so well suited for that business. So, yes.
He's building a beautiful rapport with the students when there's nothing negative happening. He's helping them find books in the library. He's chatting with them in the hallway. So they're gaining this positive view of him before, heaven forbid, they have to have any negative interaction with him. He's been fantastic.
You'll be glad to know that we're looking at adding that to the budget for next year. So I just wanted to.
Thank you all for allowing our students to have all these opportunities and for supporting that and hopefully some numbers.
Tyler, can I just ask you a question?
Yes.
So I'm really interested in STEM, and I know when we were at the presentation and Knickerbocker, you were there, and I specifically asked the question, is there some transgression from the Knickerbocker into Wiley? And you said yes, but that's all I saw you do.
Yes.
So I understand now. My question is, I understand the selection process with the Math Olympiads, but is there a selection process for the kids to participate in the STEM part of it? Do all the students get exposure? Every single one of them gets exposure to this?
Any student so we sent out at the beginning of the year, we send out a form on Parent Square for any students who are interested to apply, but not apply.
Right.
Everybody who did put their names in they were afforded the opportunity to participate with us. Yes.
And how many students out of the 617 would you say show interest?
It fluctuates. Last year we had significantly more interest, to be honest. This year it was a little bit more, less than what it is, but at total we had about 55 students whose parents signed them up, and it dropped down a little bit due to other commitments such as athletics, things like that. So probably down to about 45.
So is this an after-school program?
It is.
It is.
Yes.
Would you see this as big? I know you're gonna say yes to this part of it, but would it be feasible in the structure of your curriculum to implement the STEM into a regular school day so that you can capture more students and introduce them into this type of education?
Absolutely, that is a great question. I will tell you that being around the building and as involved as I am with the STEAM team through Watertown, I have seen a lot of my colleagues implement a ton of STEAM and STEM and activities in the classroom. I would say Wiley is probably, I'm obviously biased from them, but they do a really great job of doing that. I mean, I can look across this room and tell you that almost every colleague that I have sitting here right now does things to get those kids motivated in the arts of STEM and every, STEAM, STEM science, and really is pushing to enrich their learning with it. Thank you.
I just want to say how proud I am of all of you for coming. You know, one of the most important things you did tonight was get up here and talk. A lot of adults can't do that. We're really just big kids anyway. So, this is the time, if you want to stay, you can, but if you don't, this is the time to use. And thank you so much for representing our district so well. It's amazing.
I'm gonna snag a picture of you. You guys send them to Jane and I'll make it for presentation. Time I won't rush. I think you're right. It's the show. Okay. Even 5 and 1.
Every single time we hear that something gets better and better. And I don't even know about them. These kids are amazing.
So one of the things, so the principals pick, that's a part of their pretty, their board presentation together. So it's like all the amazing things that are happening.
It's just amazing. Unbelievable. And you're right. The best thing they did was get up there.
I'm saying to Polly, every time we do it, they'll get better.
The big kids, because Irvin tried last time
Yeah.
and now he read, he
Yeah.
was fluent and it's so nice. Very nice.
It's great to see the diversity of things happening in our district too. Not just athletics, not just music, academics, tech, all that.
And you-
Another reason to choose the Watertown.
Okay, now the fun stuff, right? We had a special finance and facilities committee meeting tonight.
Yeah, basically just to say that the report was very short. Went over the draft budget, the internal budget committee met yesterday, and I think the student committee today had some revisions, and we discussed the draft budget. And I believe Dr. Schmid will have more on that in his superintendent's report.
Segue.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for Wiley and their presentation this evening. That was a wonderful example of the amazing things that are happening in our school districts. Some important things to mention. Last week, we had the opportunity in the North region to visit Assemblyman Blackenbush, who's doing a wonderful job to support the school district and listen to our concerns moving forward in the next 3 to 5 years. The next thing I'd like to mention is the April 8th eclipse. We have received some community phone calls I did mention this at the last board meeting, but I just want to update the community. We did have, the board acted on a calendar change upon my request to turn that day to a half day. We are legally required to be in school 180 days. We build in 6 contingency days. We've used 4 of those days. Our hope, given the circumstance in the city of Watertown and the need for emergency personnel, and the fact that some of our roads will be closed beginning at 6 a.m. Our hope is to close school on that day for safety of our students and our staff. More information will come. We're hoping that the snow settles down and we are not in need of using one of those leftover contingency days. And the moment that I know the answer to that, then I will put that out for everyone's benefit. But I just want to be fully transparent that right now it's listed as a half day. We appreciate those people who have called to inquire. And our hope is to move to a full day emergency closure based on that unused contingency day. The other thing that I will mention is Lisa Blank, as Tyler Determined mentioned earlier, has done an amazing job with our STEM program. She has ordered STEM glasses for all of our kids so that they can safely observe and make this a learning experience. She plans on handing out those and the instructional materials that she created. And to have her in our district is amazing. And she's also been a role model for other districts who are borrowing the lesson plans that she created. She will be distributing, with the help of elves, those learning materials and the glasses the week of the 29th. So we're looking forward to those. And parents, as those materials come home, we're hoping that you'll engage with your child on that learning opportunity, but also make sure that you save those glasses in a safe place so that they are readily available on April 8th, so that students can actively and safely participate in that science experiment. The next thing that I'll mention, and I'm going to give Sally credit for this one as our interim business official. As we sat down and put the budget calendar together this year, she brought the idea of having an internal budget committee. We had our first meeting yesterday where we invited our union leadership. We also invited our department heads and our F&F committee, which 3 of our board members sit on, to participate in just an initial run through of the budget. And again, that is in the initial draft form. Today, we had the opportunity to do something that we've never done before in the Watertown City School District, and that was to invite our student advisory students to participate in that walkthrough. And we had an amazing conversation with them today. As we walked through it, they asked some poignant questions when we talked about positions and our mission and a vision of where we want to move the district next year. They said, but how are you going to fill those positions? And so they really pushed us on that. And then they wanted more purple in our presentation. So we added more purple to our presentation. And we got to talk to them about the importance of having a rainy day fund and a savings account. And so some of the students that sat through that today, and thank you, Tina, for your leadership on that, they shared the value of having a savings account. And hopefully we inspired the other kids, because I think the ratio was 3 to several who do not have the savings account yet. But it's not too late for them to do that. The next thing I'll mention, aside from this board meeting today, next week, on the 27th at 3:30, we're inviting all of our staff and faculty to participate at Watertown High School so that they will see the presentation. And each time we're presenting, we're improving. Yesterday, we had recommendations from the internal budget committee. We made those revisions. We presented those revisions today to the students. Students offered some recommendations. So I just want to be very transparent that this is a draft and we are not ready to present the final budget to which the board would act on after our presentation. So just want to put that out there. And then the community presentation, which is also a new initiative this year, on April 1st at 5:30 p.m. at Watertown High School will be the budget presentation for our community. And we want to thank the chamber for helping us communicate that message as well. Okay, without any further ado, Sally and I are going to kind of begin the draft budget presentation. With these slides, we want to review with you today our strategic plan, briefly, those goals, how it ties into the mission and vision, and how the purchases that we're looking at moving into next year, both on the revenue and expenditure side, tie into that. So thank you for that, and we'll go to the next. And I have the remote, so I guess I'll go to the next slide. Just as a reminder, the Watertown City School District is committed to building a caring culture that fosters lifelong learners and responsible citizens. And we told our students today, as you hear the budget, listen to key words that are in the strategic plan and the mission to see, are we putting our money where our mouth is? We know where we want to go as a district. We have a strategic plan. We had over 100 people within our community participate in putting that together. We want to make sure that this drives that forward. So we know, and this is a little bit hard to read this far back, so it's a vision screening. But the first one was graduation rate. So a lot of the things that we're going to be mentioning as far as positions and things that we want to move towards, that ties into that graduation rate. Increasing meaningful student engagement. We want our kids actively engaged in our classrooms. Well, you had asked that question about STEM and incorporating that. How are we doing more activities to engage kids so that they see themselves in the curriculum and the learning and the lessons, and that as they walk away, there's lessons that they're learning that are going to shape their future. In order to do that, we have to improve student attendance. So you'll see some things in here that we're putting in to address that. Establish or enhancing behavioral supports for students that are in need. We know that if our students are struggling behaviorally, that's going to impact their academics. And we know that if kids are have lower academics or struggling academically, that it's going to impact them behaviorally. And then we want to enhance our facilities, our buildings and grounds. Sally Switzer.
So the first slide here is showing how the revenue is compared to the current year. The budget is currently proposed at an increase of 4.7 million. We are lucky compared to some of the neighboring schools. Our state aid is showing as an increase right now of 4.5, which is the governor's proposal. Compared to some of the other schools, you know, that really is very helpful. We have, you know, a much smaller amount for other revenue. The taxes right now are plugged in at the tax cap limit. And then the remaining 8.3 million is carryover fund balance to balance this budget. And again, this is just the first draft as it's presented. We didn't have to at this point cut anything based on the requests, including some of we'll go over some of the additional things for staffing for next year programming.
So as Sally said, 50% of the districts in the state of New York saw a decrease in their aid. Thankfully for Watertown, based on our poverty rate and our increase in student enrollment, we did see an increase in that aid formula. So we're excited about that. It allows us to offer more programs like you heard earlier today. So this was just to show you what revenues are coming in. Our tax levy, that would be the cap without the supermajority. That has not been decided on. We've been very clear in our meeting and also our meeting with the students today that that's the levy that we could go to. There's much discussion that we have to do to look at what programs do we currently have and how are we going to be fiscally responsible and accountable to our taxpayers. So more information to come on that.
This is the expenditure side. It's sorted based on the function. The salaries are right now showing as only a $3.2 million increase because there is some cushion in the current year. So we are starting to eat into some of that cushion. As actually all of the account codes, but you know, that's perfect an example demonstrating that we are using some fund balance that's built into the budget. And you know, it's broken out by the function. So it's again, $4.7 million increase over the current year.
This is the exciting part. And so as we listened to the strategic plan and we engaged our students in our committee yesterday, this really speaks to our vision and where we're moving as a district. We know that as that first goal, we want to increase the graduation rate. We can't do that unless we look at the kids that are at risk of not graduating. In the budget for this upcoming school year, which is why you saw the increase from 9.2 to 92 to 96. Again, that doesn't increase the levy. That's money that we're using from the increased state aid. That credit recovery teacher that's on this list, that teacher would be assigned to kids that are credit deficient. And so this is going to be a pilot. We are possibly going to need it. Actually, a question that came up in yesterday's internal budget committee was, how do you know you need one? How do you know you don't need more than one? When you look at the data to look at the number of students and the kids that are not graduating on time, it would warrant more than one position. We're going to put one in the budget. We're going to see how that goes. If we actually can increase or decrease the credit deficiency, increase the graduation rate, and then we'll look at that moving forward. What that's going to look like is that our students that are credit deficient are going to be able to go to that credit recovery class. They're going to be able to work with a teacher who that's their primary focus, and working with that kid, working with that family, working with that counselor and those teachers to make sure that they get caught up. So they're going to be writing a prescription, essentially, an educational prescription on getting that kid caught up and closing that gap. In addition to that, because sometimes you can get stuck in the credit recovery, you forget the credit accrual. And so that prescription is going to focus on for a kid. I need to use my hands for this one. We need to focus on moving the kid forward, but also addressing that gap to close that gap and get that kid to graduate, hopefully on time. The next thing on here is actually a Wiley position. We're looking at adding a 611 special education classroom. We partnered with BOSUS, who does a wonderful job offering programs. We had a wonderful meeting with Steve Todd to discuss their availability. They don't have the space right now to add the special education programming. And we know that we need to meet the needs of our special ed kids so we can also close that academic gap and increase their graduation rate. By doing that, our proposal is to add the 611 teacher here at Wiley and a case. Sometimes it's not about adding something new. Sometimes in life, it's about going back to things that were used in the past that really had great success, and for whatever reason, they got dropped aside. As a part of the scheduling committee that Lynn Gaffney leads with her team, they had some brainstorming of what could Case Middle School do to really help the academic intervention services closing those gaps. And so we decided to go back to what was offered before and add an academic team. With doing that, we will need the music teacher, the math teacher, the science teacher, the social studies teacher, the 0.5 art, they're currently a 1.5 allocation, an ELA teacher, and a special education teacher. And so by doing that, we're going to be able to break up those numbers. Teachers are going to be able to provide intervention services to those kids, close that gap before kids get into 9th grade and increase that possibility. What we're trying to do, and the message that we're trying to send, is graduation is not a high school initiative. It's a pre-K through 12 initiative. So everything we do throughout the district matters, and these positions help us do that. The other thing that you're going to see on here, when you see that music position and that art position in Case, you know, currently kids choose. They get an art or a music. They don't get it every year. We have kids that leave Wiley Intermediate School going to middle school, and maybe art or music is the only reason that gets them to school that day. We want those kids that love the arts, and that's the reason they go to school. We want them to continue that passion for the arts when they go to Case, and not have it be, no, you only get art or you only get this. We want that choice there. But we also know that by giving kids that choice at the middle school level, that inadvertently, we're also increasing our advanced placement students at the high school level. If they take those music and art classes at the basic level in intermediate, and again at middle school, that we're going to increase those advanced placement opportunities for kids in those fields. And that is, you know, some of our kids, that's a part of their life path, and we want to provide that support for those students. The next thing is our student success specialist. You know, this year we've seen a decrease in student referrals, as you heard from the high school presentation, and hopefully echoed when we get to Case, is that we've seen a decrease in student disciplinary referrals at the secondary level, but the number of kids that are coming in from pre-K to kindergarten has been significant. Matt Burdick, in his title and new position this year, he spent a lot of time working with teachers and teams to address those issues. We need to meet the kids where they're at. And so there's been some pre-K kindergarten conversations about how we're going to have those transition meetings so that there's not a loss. Sometimes education is in a silo. Teachers spend their entire year learning strategies that work for a particular kid. The kid moves on to the next class and the teacher starts all over again. We've got to stop wasting time because we don't have time to waste. So we want to put these supports in place. These support specialists are going to go into classrooms based on a referral system. Teachers would refer that they need this level of support. The teacher would go into this, the teacher on special assignment, which is what these positions are. They would go into the classroom. They would collect data. They'd go back and help put a functional behavior assessment and behavior intervention plan in place. They would show the teacher how to use these strategies, and then they phase out and they go to the next student. So we really do believe that this is going to be the power of moving things forward and addressing the behaviors, closing the behavior gap in order to address the academic gap, in order to increase graduation. The next thing is true when we talk about the instructional coaches. We talked with Lynn Gaffney, we talked with Matt Burdick, and we talked about, you know, how can we cross-train our instructional coaches, because oftentimes there are behaviors that impede academics. So they're going to be cross-trained, and so that while they're in there providing academic support for teachers and coaching, they're going to be able to provide some behavioral interventions as well. In order to do that, there's been a disparity between who gets a coach in their building and who does not. In order to close that gap, and under the direction of our assistant superintendent for curriculum and instruction, we've decided we need to put that support there so that teachers have that support at the instructional coaching level. Wiley will now, with this proposal, have a full-time instructional coach, and North Elementary School will have the same. The something that we didn't dig really deep into earlier in the slide with Sally, but we did mention yesterday in the internal budget committee meeting, is that sometimes you get grants. Grants are great, they pay for things, then sometimes grants go, and then you need to cover those with the general fund. And so in these next two examples, that's the case. For instructional coaches, they're current employees, we're not looking to go hire more. Those are being moved from those grant funds back to the general fund so that we can continue that level of support and coaching that we need. In addition to that, we have 59 ESSER funded positions they're just under $4.3 million in salaried positions that are moving back to the general fund. In addition to that, something we presented a few months back, and thanks to Tina and her effort in pulling this data together, the need to add an assistant principal at the high school level so that we can look at that student to teacher ratio and we can focus more on academics. In addition to that, we have supports that are needed to make these strategic plan goals move forward, and that is physical therapy. We have kids that are required by law to receive physical therapy, and in accordance with their individualized education plan, in order to meet that level of need, we needed to expand our physical therapy position. In addition to that, our computer technician. You know, we've increased our one-to-one student to teacher ratios. We've increased the Chromebook ratios with students, the Promethean boards in each of the classrooms. We would like to hire a full-time computer technician that can support that level of need at the high school and also that level of need at the middle school. And so that will be a shared technician that is assigned solely for those two buildings. So that as those one-on-one devices go down, they can quickly get those one-on-one devices back up and running, and those students can return to class and engage in their learning. STEM aid. You know, we heard a lot about what Lisa Blank has done for our district to increase STEM activities and STEAM activities. Right now, there's a lot of materials and supplies, which is a great problem to have because our kids have a lot of access to resources. But she often spends a lot of her time engaging, organizing, facilitating the distribution of those resources. And so by hiring a STEM aide, which will be a teacher aide, that aide will be able to help facilitate the organization of materials and supplies, and that will free up her to be able to go into classrooms and really give teachers the support that they want. And the next thing on this slide is lunch monitors. At CASE, you know, the building team is asking for lunch monitors so that we can provide that safe, enjoyable learning opportunities. We want our kids to be social during that space, and we believe that our lunch monitors would be an excellent support with that. The next thing goes to this year. This year, this budget was drafted prior to me starting with the Watertown City School District. Coming in and quickly doing a lot of listening and learning to her, there were things that we needed. We couldn't wait to this current fiscal year. We added as such our Director of Student Empowerment. We got great news recently with his efforts with the State Education Department. We were currently being audited for two things with special education, and we were removed from one of those audits as a result of the work of him and the team that has worked directly with him. The typist for pre-K. You know, we currently have a principal for pre-K. She's in charge of registering her kids and being in the CDOs throughout the community to see what's going on in teaching and learning. Without freeing her up to be in those locations, we're really not doing a great job making sure that our kids are kindergarten ready. And so we want to free her up, and we would like to hire a full-time secretary to support pre-K, but also special education. We've seen an increase of students with IEPs, and we want to make sure that we have that level of due diligence. School safety officer, which is why I put Mr. Fairchild on the spot to ask him about that pilot. We have that built in for Wiley, but Chad and his team has graciously allowed this person to support our high school. So in the morning, that school safety officer begins at the high school to make sure that we have a safe, smooth transition in at 7:25, 7:30, and then comes up to Wiley to begin the day at Wiley. The student support room, that was in lieu, some parents may be familiar, that was the old in-school suspension room. This year, as a part of that audit from the state, we quickly realized that anytime a kid goes to an in-school suspension room, if they have an individualized education plan, it counts as an out-of-school suspension. And so that counts across those 10 days, and it counts against our district data. This year, what we decided to do was hire a full-time certified teacher that is in that space, in addition to 2 teaching assistants, They provide kids from case and the high school that level of support when they're in that space, and it doesn't count as an out-of-school suspension. That was a direct result of us being taken off that one audit. Is that correct, Lynn? Having that position in place. One testing center assistant. You know, this was something that Lynn and Tina both worked on last year. Previously, our special education teachers would be pulled to provide special ed accommodations to students. Now we have a teaching assistant that's trained in giving those accommodations, having to remove those special education teachers less, therefore closing that gap. Oftentimes you see in an ELL world and a special education world, you see those services being pulled because the amount of accommodations that those kids require. This is one less thing that will pull those teachers so that they can provide the level of support that they're trained and certified to do. The next thing is, you know, we added the athletic trainer position and a full-time school psychologist. So those are positions that were not built into this year's budget that we would like to carry into the 24-25 budget.
I'll take over now. At the February 6th Board of Education meeting, there was, and the board approved the proposition number 2, the continuous voter registration, to be placed on the ballot. This is the opportunity for people who aren't already registered with the county to be able to come in and register with me anytime versus what they are able to do now, which is by the Board of Registration, which allows them to come in on a certain date for a certain number of hours. This opens it up to much more opportunity. Although this is just for school voting, if they were to register with me anytime during the school year, this would allow them to be able to vote for anything through the county. So we are hoping that this as a yes vote coming up, because this will, I think, benefit all voters.
So on that, just to clarify, so if someone's already registered with the Board of Elections, they wouldn't have to do this. This would just be, they weren't registered and they wanted to vote.
They get used to the area, they want to be a part of vote on our for our school budget, board elections. They could come in and register with me up to 5 days before that election vote day.
But if they register with you, that doesn't mean that they can vote in general
No,
elections.
not at all. In which case, most people would probably just go to the county and register it through that way. But this does give them the opportunity
To do it quick, yeah.
to do it, yes, to be on my list as well.
So this just goes from one day when you to any day
Any
throughout
day,
the year.
yeah, continuous throughout the school year.
And highlight the April 30th.
Yes, April 30th, this year, April 30th from noon until 4, we'll be able to do that here.
Sally and I are going to tag team on this one. So if you can start, what I would like you to do is kind of give an example of our capital reserve fund that we created and how that's going to help, and we're going to tie into these ones.
Okay, so you created a capital reserve fund quite a few years ago, and there's a sufficient level right now that when the building condition survey is completed, you'll be able to have projects throughout the district up to almost $85 million. It's a savings that would help prevent, you know, a fluctuation in the tax levy because it would help minimize any local impact. These propositions that we're talking about now would be also that concept that you don't have to budget for infrequent large ticket items. This is the technology reserve, your technology infrastructure, computers, phone systems, things that aren't replaced very often, but are very pricey and are not available necessarily through a capital construction project. So it's good to have this rainy day fund for these replacement infrastructure. And this one's for the technology. And the next one is for the buildings and grounds, but there's specific rules to create it. The voters have to authorize the creation of it and authorize how it gets funded. The proposal would be a 10-year life of this reserve and a maximum contribution limit. And that's how they're legally have to be set up that way. And then, there's, types of things that we can spend that on. And we do get audited, so it's not like, the board can just decide to spend any willy-nilly things of technology. It does have to follow the voter-approved criteria for these propositions.
So what made us think about this year when we were sitting down and going through the budget cycle for this upcoming school year was the servers. Unless you're in the business of buying servers, and you realize how many servers you need to buy, and how important they are to the security and safety of our district. That technology came in at about $1.6 million. When you look at the power of having a savings account, which is essentially what this reserve is, it allows us not necessarily to say we throw out a number and we want to cap that this year. It allows us to put a cap on what we want that savings account to be, similar to our capital reserves for construction projects. But in the event of a server crash or a cybersecurity situation, it allows us to have the money in a savings account to be able to go forward with board approval, and the proposition itself has to be voter approved. It gives us that flexibility to go out and do that without having to do a mid-year tax increase to pay for an unanticipated cost. So that is the power of having, and there are, as Sally said, there are restrictions to it. As you can see on this particular slide, there's the number of years, how much the board's going to have a discussion tonight, if they want to move this forward, and how much they would like that capped at. Again, not this year necessarily, and then what those purchases can be for this reserve. The same thing is true for the next one. It's creating a buildings and grounds equipment reserve. We have an example this year that happened, thank you for mentioning, in our finance facility meeting, North Elementary School. We could not have anticipated with that windstorm that the wall was going to be partially knocked out, the windows were going to be knocked out. Having this, now thankfully this year, we were able to use general funds to pay for those emergency needs. If we did not, because we have to be careful with our district budget moving forward, if we didn't have that capital reserves, then we would be in a position where this proposition could help. It would give us that savings account to be able to go and get that building fixed. Because although we get 91% roughly on our aid reimbursement, it doesn't happen that year. It happens over several years. Depending on if it's an emergency, it could be the following year's budget. It could be up to 14 to 15 year payback. This savings account would allow us to be able to address that emergency situation. I'll give you another example because it also happened this year, although I think it started last year. Knickerbocker, the boiler died last year. The main boiler went down. And so that building is running on, or was running on, the backup boiler, which is good unless that backup boiler also goes down. And then we're looking at a situation where we have to put all of our kids and staff on a bus, move them to the high school. So having that savings account would allow us to address that emergency situation without having to go out and to the taxpayers to do an increase or a levy to pay for that emergency. And this is going to be a discussion item later on in the agenda. Okay. Oh, what did I do? Yes.
Early mail voting is an option this year. It is new, in September 2023, Governor Hochul signed into law the New York State Early Voter Act, which establishes an early voting system in New York State. This does apply to school districts for the upcoming budget vote. Anybody who would like to obtain an application for an absentee ballot is available in my office after April 22nd. I obtained an active disabled and absentee voter list from Jefferson County Board of Elections, in which I mail out after May 1st. Applications are due back to me by May 14th if the application is mailed, and Tuesday, May 21st, if the application is hand delivered by 5 p.m. All ballots are due by Tuesday, 5 p.m. May 21st.
Michelle, is that application on May 14th, is that in hand or is that postmark or?
That is, okay, if they call me and want me to mail one to them, I can do that up until May 14th, in which they can mail it back to me. I think that allows them, in their eyes, enough time for me to receive the application back and for me to mail the ballot to.
And with the ballots, if they can mail them in, they can mail them in, obviously.
Yep.
Is that, they have to be in hand by the 21st?
Yes.
So that you can tabulate.
Do you know why people have to get an application to get an absentee ballot? Because in general election, you can just get an absentee ballot. So what's the application part of it?
I'm not sure. Yeah.
And then there's, it has reasons, like, you're working or you're out of town.
Oh, so you have to, so the application, you have to specify the reason why.
The reason
I
why,
thought they got rid of
We'll
that.
do for the general election.
Yeah.
I thought they got rid of that. She didn't get rid of that. The governor didn't get rid of the reason.
So,
A lot changed during COVID. Now
Yeah.
they're not even allowing people to mention the word COVID and the reason that they. And really isn't a very big difference between absentee ballot and early mail vote. It's actually
The same.
nearly the same thing.
So you have to check one of those reasons in order for you to qualify to get an absentee
You
ballot.
have two different applications. You don't
Okay.
have two different ballots. They basically say the same thing on the front, but on the back.
Okay.
There are two other things that I'd like to highlight that are not included in this PowerPoint presentation, but they will be if you come to our community presentation. I wanted to leave that hanger there so that you show up to that one on April 1st at 5:30, Watertown High School. But the two things are busing. We went to Knickerbocker and listened to the presentation from the teachers there with after-school activities. You heard today some after-school activities. At the elementary schools in Wiley, we do not have an activity bus currently. And so built into this budget for next year for $85,000 is to include after-school activity buses. So it would be for Wiley Intermediate School and it would be for all of the elementary schools, so 6 schools. It would be 2 days a week, 1 bus. And so we're looking forward to that, leveling the playing field and giving our parents that are not able to come and get their kids from after-school activities to encourage them to participate in some of the activities that we heard from tonight. In addition to that, in our teacher advisory council meeting, we heard from our teachers about PBIS. We say that PBIS is a district-wide initiative, and oftentimes teachers are responsible for or feel the need to use their own personal resources to fund the PBIS program. If it's a district program, we should have a budget line for PBIS. That stands for Positive Behavior Intervention and Supports. We wanted to make sure that if you're attending Watertown High School or you're attending Starbuck Elementary School, our largest school and our smallest school, that the allocation is based on students. And so as a result of our conversation and planning and our teacher advisory council, we have decided to allocate in our budget $2.50 per student, so that if you have a school size of 1,100 students, you get enough money to actually do something with it. In past years, it was a $500 allocation where every building got 500, regardless if you had 1,100 kids or you had 100 and something kids. And so when we look at, our strategic plan and leveling the playing field and making sure that we're addressing equity for access and those kind of things, that helps us get there. So those are two positive things that you didn't see tonight in the PowerPoint, but you will hear more about at the community presentation. The other thing that I want to say before I close with my remarks is that, as I said when I began this presentation with Sally's effort, is that this is our draft. So this is not a final presentation. The numbers that you heard this evening are subject to change. We know how important it is to be fiscally responsible to our community and to our taxpayers, while also maintaining programming that meets the needs of our community. And we want our community to choose the Watertown City School District, not have it be a place where they must send their kids. And that's all I have today.
Thank you. So we're a month out from the board adopting this proposed budget. When we get to that point, I just want to make sure there's a lot there. Are there any questions the board has for the superintendent or the business change?
Hi, I have a quick question, Mary. Just a point of clarification. So the 611 is, we are budgeting for Wiley. Okay. Does Knickerbocker have a 611?
They have a 12-1. 212, yeah.
They have two 1211. Okay.
Question, the reserve funds,
No,
once,
I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
A long pause.
I know, I thought she was done.
I'm kidding.
The reserve funds, once the money is in there, is there any way to get it out? Let's say we have a need someplace else. The reserve funds for 10 years, we put money into it, 8 years down the road, we realize, oh man, we had something go bad, we need money, we don't have enough. Can we access those reserve funds for other users?
So those reserve funds, the answer to that would be no. They are restricted for the reasons that would be on the proposition.
So once the money's in there, that's all it can go for.
It would be for that purpose. And
After 10 years, if there's any money still in there, it would then resort back to the general, free it up unless there's another proposition to renew it. Or transfer it, the voters could authorize transferring it to a different fund, but that's 10 years.
you're welcome.
And that, the building of that fund is done over time, correct? Could be.
And that I had Sally begin with that piece talking about the capital reserves, because when you look at the possibility of doing, and again, our aid ratio is really high in the Watertown City School District, and there are a lot of factors that go into why it's so high. But when you look at an $85 million project, really the cost would be roughly 8.9 million, I think is the example that Ben gave us. That account, we capped it off at 10, it has to be used by 2029. By having those reserves in there, by saving a little bit of money each year, we're now going to be able to do $85 million worth of projects in our community to beautify our spaces without having to go to the taxpayers and ask them for more money to cover the cost of renovations. So that responsible savings is extremely helpful.
I refer to that as proper fund balance management.
I gave the students an example today. In Key West where I live, there are a lot of condos. And it wasn't uncommon for a condo association to say, oh, you need a new roof this year. And they go out and now they have to spread the cost of the roof among all of the condo owners. This planning avoids us from having to do that because the money is already put in that reserve.
I just wanted to thank you, Dr. Schmiegel and Sally, for the engagement, the additional engagement this year with the Internal Budget Committee, soon to be our staff, and also the community. This is going to result in better outcomes. Thank you. Items for consent agenda.
Resolve that consent agenda items A, B, and C are hereby approved.
Done.
Second,
Really?
discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Items for board action.
Whereas on April 4th, 2023, the Board of Education extended contracts for student transportation services to First Students Incorporated for an additional 1 year expiring June 30th, 2024. And whereas the board and First Student desire to extend the contracts for an additional year, now therefore be it resolved upon the presentation and recommendation of the school district's administration that the Board of Education approves the transportation contract extensions with First Student and authorize the president of the Board of Education and the superintendent of schools to execute any documents necessary to effectuate such extensions.
Motion.
Correct.
Second,
Done.
any discussion?
Yes, I have a couple of questions. This would indicate that we are going to be with First Student until the end of 2025. At that point, is the process to put the busing for our school district out for bid again?
Yes.
And at that opportunity, anybody can bid, and then we would be.
There'll be a public notice.
Okay. And then the second question I have, and I don't really know, Sally, if you know the answer to this, I'm just thinking about it when I'm looking at this. I know there's been a lot of talk about, us having to go to electronic, electrical buses and, alternative energy with our busing. And then there's been some talk that, oh, that's never going to happen and that the state's going to fall, backpedal. So I'm thinking, do we need to start thinking about how we're going to address that? In terms of we want to start investing maybe little by little in purchasing our own buses. Is it worth doing that? Is it worth looking at electrical buses? Because some of our surrounding school districts own their school buses. And that is a huge asset. And our district has never owned. So I'm just thinking forward. If you have any insight on that.
Well, I mean, if we purchase buses, it's not like we would be a traditional bus garage, but we would have to,
Figure
use
that
it
part
into
out.
infrastructure as well. Then we would have to get the charging stations and if there's a whole planning, a long lead planning on getting that infrastructure even ready for it.
You got staff.
I'm sorry?
Then you have
So
staff.
we'd have to start.
Yeah. So, I mean, do we think that that's really gonna happen? Do you think that they're really gonna force us to do that?
I was in Albany and I know John, you were in Albany also. That was definitely a key discussion among districts. We had one district superintendent speak and she said, I just received an $8 million grant to get electric buses. But when we did the feasibility study, they're in a rural area of New York. And she said, when we did the feasibility study on a 40-degree weather day, we could run 9 of our buses, but on a 20-degree day, we could only run 6 of our buses because and in Canada, they have fuel generated heaters on their electric buses, which are illegal in New York. So there are a lot of things that we've been talking about. Right now, we did joint venture with First Students to sign up for them receiving grant money. Initially, when those grant funds were available, they were not open to subcontractors. They are now, so we did sign that. Our rationale for doing that was that obviously the cost of an electric bus is over $400,000. Although most of it is able now with the grant money that's available, that money is not going to stick around forever. And so we were hoping that it would, help keep our costs down by signing on to that grant. So First Student is actively seeking grant money to purchase electric buses.
So I think as a board, it would behoove us to really put this as part of our we need to be looking at next year and how we're gonna, and like you like to do, you're always, thinking ahead and being proactive so that we're not reactive. This is a little bit of a concern, and especially, our transportation budget right now is over $3 million. That's a lot of money. So I'm just thinking conservatively, like, would we be at an advantage to look at owning our own buses? Now, in terms of electrical, in terms of the weather, that's a big deal because you lose 20% of the charge once the temperature drops below 25 degrees.
Yes, sport buses.
Yeah, and that is a major problem, because we live in the North Country and our weather is terrible. But that's a lot of charge that you lose on a vehicle. You can have it 100% charge, and as soon as the temperature drops under 25, you're losing 20% of that charge. That's a big deal. So I just think since this was brought up, we need to put that kind of in our.
I've had a couple of board meetings ago, I asked Brian Arias to reach out to National Grid. So they're actually going to do a feasibility study to see if we even have the grid to support electric vehicles. Trucks, et cetera, those things.
And I think that's one of the good things about using the service is the responsibility is more on them than it is us.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we have to work with them, we have to talk to them, we have to have those conversations, but at the end of the day, if First Student wants to stay in business and the law doesn't change, it's not them to get elected.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
This is the first thing. Changed.
Yeah, significantly,
Start
yeah.
charging the districts.
That's
to pay for
that
it.
anyway.
My gut feeling is there's a lot of desire in Albany to move that deadline back. As one of our assemblymen put it to me, is there's not enough grant money in New York State for every single district to switch all of their buses to electric by the time the deadline gets here. There's just not enough grant money there. I think the state would have to put an immense amount of resources into it. So I think we'll see the timeline change. I don't think we'll see the goal change. I think the goal of the state will still be electric buses. I think this.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? All in favor? Any opposed?
Resolved that the approval of the contract for health and wellness services for Watertown City School District students attending a non-public school in Carthage Central School District for the school year 2023-24 is presented to the board is hereby approved.
Is there a motion?
John.
Second? All Ellie, any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed?
Whereas a resolution was passed by the Board of Education on March 4th, 2024, approving the provisional appointment of Paige Christie, and be further resolved that this amended resolution reflects a revised effective start date to be March 20th, 2024, and is hereby approved.
Is there a motion?
Millie.
Second?
Yeah.
John, any discussion?
Senior,
All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried.
Be it resolved that upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, Dr. Larry Schniegel, the Board of Education hereby approves the following. Resignations, appointments, probationary instructional, permanent, permanent part-time, provisional, tutors, STEM program, spring coaching boys, spring coaching girls, substitute non-instructional.
Is there a motion? Second? Any discussion?
I have a quick question. So Annie Bedard, for the physical therapist, is that the physical therapist position? Wow, we already found one? She's awesome. She's really, I'm glad, okay, so she starts at the end of April. She's an amazing lady. I'm really glad that we got her. Wow, very good job, Tina. Yeah, that was really good. Okay.
Anything else? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried.
Resolved that the disposal, recycle, sale, or donation of outdated and generally in poor condition classroom and furniture items from North Elementary and Massey Street is hereby approved.
Is there a motion?
John.
Second?
Millie.
Ellie? Discussion?
I'm a little shocked that Sandra's getting rid of anything.
I know that the president always asks about books, but on this particular topic, do we typically find homes for these? I would think we would.
I'm thinking a lot of it goes to auction.
Okay.
But yes, but if you need anything, I think we can contact the stars.
Out of concern that my wife is actually gonna watch this, I'm not gonna.
Smart man,
Yes.
very smart.
All in favor? Any opposed?
Resolved that the educational student trips as presented are hereby approved.
Is there a motion? Second?
Millie.
Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carried.
Resolved that the disposal, recycle, or donation of damaged, outdated, and unused books and items from the library at Case Middle School is hereby approved.
Is there a motion?
Millie.
Second?
John.
Any discussion? Only Jason.
I was just saying, can we just take all the books and just run them to his house? Just leave them at his doorstep as a gift.
All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried.
Resolved that the approval of an increase in election inspector rates of pay to an hourly rate of $15 an hour and $16 an hour for chief inspector. This new rate will take effect for the May 21, 2024 budget vote and election and is hereby approved.
Is there a motion?
Millie.
Billy, second?
John.
Any discussion?
Just out of curiosity, what were they getting paid?
The inspector was, I think they were 14, whatever minimum wage last year.
Okay,
So we have 14 and 15 respectively, so that's,
we're meeting the minimum wage.
we'll do this again next year.
And out of curiosity, typically how many do we have?
Yeah.
I'm just.
Inspectors,
Yeah.
I asked an extra one to be at the high school this year, so there's gonna be 4 at the high school, 3 over at North, and they'll be on the next board meeting.
Nice. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried.
Resolved that a donation from Stewart's Shops for 72 gallons of ice cream, toppings, and supplies for the Watertown High School PBIS Ice Cream Social. This donation is gratefully accepted and approved and will be acknowledged in writing.
Is there a motion? Second?
Millie.
Discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried.
Resolved that the Following sports trip is hereby approved. The Mudville softball tournament on Mudville Complex, Circle New York. The date of the trip is April 6, 2024.
Have a motion.
John.
John, second. Ellie, any discussion?
Opening us in there.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried.
That's the end of the resolutions.
Thank you. This is the opportunity for public comment for any topic that you'd like to come before the board with. Is there anybody who would like to avail themselves of that opportunity?
Oh, we put the place out pretty well.
Okay, so we have items for discussion and information. We have talked a bit about the two propositions for the reserve fund for IT and for buildings and grounds equipment. It does come with review from the Finance and Facilities Committee and a recommendation from administration. And I think probably would be helpful to talk first about the recommendation on the numbers.
Yes.
Willing to do that? Yes.
So the first one is the creation of the Information Technology Reserve Fund. As Sally said, our hope is to set that up for 10 years for the specified amount that we shared on the PowerPoint slide earlier. Our hope, given the vulnerability of the IT and the budget process this year and the request to repair and replace necessary servers at 1.6, what we would like to do with this reserve fund is cap it at 2 million. And again, as stated earlier and asked by our vice president, that is not something that has to be filled now. It's over the life of 10 years. But our proposal would be 2 million for the technology and cost of technology infrastructure.
And conceptually, we did talk about it in finance and facilities, but this is the opportunity for the board to discuss our philosophy on these reserves and the numbers. Any comments from board members?
Is there any worry that in 10 years that the cost of those servers will go up significantly enough that it would be more than 2 million to replace them?
The cost of everything does seem to be going up.
Is there an opportunity legally to amend the cap on that reserve, or you can't touch it for 10 years?
No, you can amend it, but we have to go to the voters again to amend it. Which, you know, like in my former job, we did that once with the cap reserve, so yes, it is possible. The voters have to know upfront that that's what the board's plan is, so.
So if we decide that we want to cap it at 2 million, and we've already heard Randy say that we are not going to be putting the 2 million in this year altogether, that's just a cap on the reserve. How, my question would be, how do we decide how much money goes into the account initially? And what is the process of increasing that amount until we cap it at 2 million? Like, what's that whole process look like?
It would be board authorization, so, you know, it's not like the business office can just do it, you know, make a journal entry and spend the money. You know, everything would have to be board approved to fund it, you know, take it from just the unreserved funds into this new reserve, or to spend it. You know, you would also be authorizing to expend it, so it's not like the business office can just do those things. If you need the money, you would have to bring it as a motion.
So would one of the board members bring a motion forward and say, let's just say I said, okay, I support this and I would like to start this account and start off by putting $200,000 into it. Is it just a random number that we select, and do we make that proposition, or is it a recommendation from you?
No, I think the superintendent would bring forth to the board to say, you know, based on, you know, it can be, you know, if you receive unexpected revenues that, you know, you don't need to balance, you know, to spend your, or, you know, just at the end of the year and you look at your fund balance and see how that's typically though how it's funded. It's, you know, towards the end of the year in May and June, you'll look and say, okay, we have, you know, sufficient funds. Let's, you know, bring this to the board to fund it. You know, that's normally how you have the authority to look at your finances, and you can do it any time during the year.
Right.
But, you know, that's normally when you do it towards the end of the school year.
I would like to note that one of the reasons why I think this is a great idea is because it is a reserve fund, so it is earning interest. And right now, interest earnings are working way in our favor. We have gained a significant amount in interest earnings based on our economy. So the one great thing about this reserve is that you put the money in there, and if you're not using it, it's gaining interest. So you're actually building your base all on its own. So I would like to just point that out to the public, that is actually a plus in doing something like this.
And none of these things are extravagances. They are essential needs of the district. And, you know, it's not a question of if, it's a question of when.
Right, and again, it's not like these are purchases that you need to make every year, and if you did, you had a budget for it, it could fluctuate and affect your tax impact, you know, and this is to prevent that fluctuation in your tax impact for things that are not purchased on an annual, or needed on an annual basis, but are large dollar amounts.
As our finance guru, do you see any negative effects of us establishing this reserve account? Is there anything bad about it?
No, not really, because, you know, if you don't put the money in there, then it just goes, you know, the money would remain, you know, basically in the fund balance, and then, you know, would be subject to, you know, the restrictions, the statutory restrictions. But, you know, the board can have their level of fund balance, but, you know, that they determine, but, you know, this is definitely an earmark for a specific future purpose.
I think with two board members not here today, we are looking at a vote on this at the next regular board meeting on the second. Unless there are any other thoughts, questions, concerns?
So we just basically readdress both of these, because I mean, it's basically the same concept.
We don't have to tell.
Yeah, we don't have to, yeah.
So the district's proposal, thank you for pointing that out, the district's proposal for the units and facilities, we would like to have that capped over a 10-year life at 1 million. That would be our recommendation to the board.
Right, so I think we will move that forward for the next regular meeting for a vote. Maybe additional input. I have an opportunity for them at.
And what about the IT?
Just leave it at that.
Oh, sorry, buildings and ground. Sorry.
2 million, 1 million.
Oh, two, I'm sorry. I missed that. Okay. Thank you.
Like it. One of the resolution, yeah, two people. Yeah. So there'll be an opportunity for additional discussion, present the resolution. The other two workers. Okay, upcoming dates, lots going on. As you know, this is Music in Our School Month, so lots of that. We have the high school musical this week, right? Thursday, Friday, at the Watertown High School, 7 p.m. And then Saturday, there's a matinee at 1 and 7 p.m. and they're doing Spam-A-Lot. I'm excited to see how they do with that. I think it's the PG-13 version I hear, but should be good all around. March 26th, Music in Our Schools concert, 7 p.m. at Watertown High School gym. I know there's lots of concerts going on in the buildings as well this month, or have already, or will happen. As we discussed, March 27th, draft budget presentation for staff at 3:30 p.m. at the Watertown High School auditorium. Then on the 28th, there's the Watertown High School National Honor Society induction ceremony at 7 o'clock p.m. Following day is a holiday, Good Friday, no school, all buildings are closed on March 29th. And again, as Dr. Schmiegel mentioned, draft budget presentation for the community for all who want to participate on Monday, April 1st at 5:30 p.m. in the Watertown High School auditorium. April 6th, we will have our regular Finance and Facilities Committee meeting at 5 p.m. here, and followed by the regular board meeting at 6 p.m. Okay.
Can I add, I think it's the 21st, is Wiley's art show at Flower.
I think Wiley is there a STEAM fair at Wiley?
Yeah.
21st too?
So the 21st at 5 o'clock at the state office building. It's the K6, including Wiley Art Show. So I'd love to have you all go there. I'm gonna be there. And right after that at 6:15, we're gonna have our STEAM fair here, and we have 84 students that are participating in that, and 15 community members as guests, plus our own in-school 7 STEAM folks. So it's gonna be very exciting.
Busy. Good stuff. Okay. Around the table, we'll start with Mr. King.
Got a chance to go down to Flower to see the case in the Watertown High School art show. Phenomenal work, very, very impressive. We have very talented young artists here at Watertown. I was blown away by some of the pottery and sculptures, as well as, you know, the paintings and the drawings. So amazing, kudos, can't wait to see Spam a lot. And, yeah, that's it. You know, we're in between seasons. I feel for the spring coaches with what Mother Nature brought our way. It looked like we were off to an auspicious start last week, and this week not so much. So, good luck to all those teams as they start their season.
Thank you.
So a couple of things. So first, Chad, I just want to tell you that, I have heard nothing but unbelievable things about you at Wiley. You have an enormous support, as was demonstrated by all the people that showed up. The last time I saw that kind of a staff turnout was when Erin King came and presented last year. And to me, that is a visual of the support that you have. So I think you guys are doing a wonderful job there. Your student body, your teachers, we've heard nothing but great things. I'm glad that you're supportive of the SSO. I've heard nothing but great things about him as well. So your staff feels that you are open ears, that you are approachable, that your door is wide open, you're listening, and you're constantly trying to resolve their issues. And that is a really good thing for our board to hear, because I think that Dr. Schmiegel and Tina and his administrative team have put in a lot of time and effort into bringing the level of rapport between everyone to a higher standard. And I think that by your presentation and seeing the support that you have really is a testament to what you have accomplished thus far. So I'm very happy about that. And I want to congratulate you and your vice principal, because that's a huge step forward. So that's one thing that I'd like to say. The other thing I'd like to say to you is that I'm a huge proponent of the STEM and STEAM growth. I'm actually going to be meeting with Lisa Plank and Lynn about that. I presented something that they looked into. I'm going to be talking more about it. The administration is very supportive of implementing that type of curriculum into the system. We'll see how much we can do. As you know, Lynn was able to capture a grant that is going to be able to fund a lot of these initiatives. So I'm happy that you have Tyler. He's magnificent. He's super energetic, and you can tell that he just connects with the kids beyond what most teachers can do in that little, I mean, he only sees them for a short period of time, but yet he's got this wonderful rapport. So again, that's a testament to the both of you that you're doing a great job there. So I just wanted to pay you that compliment. You're welcome. And then I just have 2 logistical questions, Tina. Did we post so Tim Burr announced his retirement. So did we post his job?
We did. We did a while ago, and I have a stack of applications. We're going to schedule interviews coming up over the next couple of weeks for next year, for positions for next year.
Okay, so we
have a
did
good
post.
Yes.
Yeah, so was that application process closed already?
Yes.
Okay, so that ended. So that happened how long ago?
Oh, it was probably, if I were to take a guess, we posted that about a month ago.
Okay.
For a couple of weeks.
So you have a stack and you have great interest, which is really good for us, because normally we don't.
Yeah, interest also.
Yes.
That's amazing. Okay, very good. And what about Terry's position?
Yeah, so we did, first round of interviews yesterday.
How's that looking?
Pretty good. We had a nice pool of candidates. The committee did a wonderful job. We used our, system, very
Right.
objective system, our STAR system. So we're looking at doing a second round of interviews with Dr. Schmiegel and me coming up here in the next week or so.
Okay, so we should have that. So
Yes.
are those the only 2 like major positions that we're looking to fill?
We have many that we're looking to fill instructionally, and again, we advertise for those early and often, so again, we're gonna schedule those interviews coming up, but those are two of the major ones.
The major ones, yeah. Okay, I'm happy to hear all that. That's it, that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Gordon.
Yeah, so I also attended the Case Art Show, terrific, really wonderful work. And then the sports season, I want to just throw kudos to I know the coaches with the gym space being limited. I know they're finding ways to practice. My daughter had 6 a.m. practice this morning. So, I mean, not be the best way, but they're finding ways to practice. So, you know, do what you can. And I think, just want to point out, you know, in anything you think you do in life, you always want to get better. Every year you want to do a little better than the past. And I've been on the board for quite a while. And I think the budget process this year points that out. Every year we try to get a little better, and I think this year, you know, leaps and bounds, transparency information is provided to the public and to the board itself. So I want to point that out. That's appreciated. And I thank Mr. Fairchild for Sligo League team. This is the STEM Explorers messing with the ads. I know I remember doing the egg drop project or helping my daughter do the egg drop project. It's a ton of fun. So it was. I don't want to brag. We'll leave it at that.
For this year.
Thank you. I have my orders from the president to read one of the submittals from a principal, and then I'll make comments. This is from Aaron King, principal at Case Middle School. Case had a strong showing at the Flower Library Art Show. We are proud of the amazing talent that our students and the hard work of our teachers, Bridget Gates and Shannon Walter. It was inspiring to see all the students, all the mediums our students are working on to demonstrate their art. On March 12th, 14th, and 15th, Mad City Money came to Case Middle School. This gives a hands-on learning experience about the real world, designed to teach personal finance concepts and life skills. All 8th grade students participated and were thoroughly engaged in this incredible opportunity brought to us by Cornell Cooperative Extension in Jefferson County. A lot of this has already been said, but it's always wonderful to come to a school and have it full of smiling faces and wonderful teachers, students, and parents. Well done, Mr. Fairchild. This was another shining moment for the district tonight. Really, really proud of everybody involved. I would agree with Cully. I've said it before, but we made huge strides in our budget process, and we get better. Every year we'll get a little bit better. I did want to, just because athletics, and I got 2 sons very involved in athletics, but often music gets missed, and this is definitely the month for music. I counted no less than 25 events, you know, over the next 6 weeks involving music performances in our schools, and kudos to all involved in that. Always is important to highlight that part of our extracurricular activities. So that's all I have. I don't think we have any other business before us. We have a motion to adjourn. Holly, Billy, all in favor? Okay. Adjourn.